I played and ranked every Five Nights at Freddy's. The series was 16 games, 3 mainline novels, 2 anthologies, a whole ton of merch, and now 1 movie. But before I dove into playing them, I made a prediction of what my tier list would look like. Let's start at the beginning, 9 years ago in 2014 when the first Five Nights at Freddy's is released, which released to an insane amount of success, a lot of that thanks to YouTubers, theories, fan-made games and songs, which had a higher peak than Minecraft parodies. That is insane. But regardless, Five Nights at Freddy's 1, being the original, is the simplest of the series. 2 doors, 2 lights, keep your eyes on the animatronics and don't let them in the office. You could finish the game in about an hour or 2 unless you get stuck on night 5 like I did, or you accidentally press new game like I did, and now you lost all your progress. No, I did not mean to do that. No, if it puts me back and I have to do it all over again, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. That was my one big complaint about this game. My hand slipped on the air or something and it was no like, are you sure you want to start a new game? Like, you're on night 5, you can finish it right now. I also don't know if I was unlucky during these attempts because Bonnie would just spawn camp me if I was doing really well. I was doing well to the point it wasn't an issue, but then now that I had to have the door closed for so long, it was now a challenge. But other than that though, it was a fun experience. So I'll give Five Nights at Freddy's 1 a B. It's better than I expected. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 released only 3 months after the original, and it was originally meant to release in 2015, but because the demo had problems releasing, it got pushed forward because of like a sense of apology, I guess. This was the first game to start getting teasers, and when I tell you the teasers went huge, you could make a video about a teaser and that was an easy 1 million views right there. They were pretty cool though. You had to like brighten up the images to see a hidden message, maybe the file name had a hidden message as well, or even the source code on the website. It could be either one of those 3. It was very intricate and just fun to engage with. FNAF 2 has quite a few differences between the first despite the small time gap. You now have to deal with the original 4 animatronics, the new 4, Balloon Boy and the puppet. Only 10 things to deal with, unless you add Gordon Freddy to the mix, now it's 11. How hard could that be? What do you want me to do with Mango? I've died because I can't do 10 things at once. Stress. This really made you feel like a 9 to 5 worker. My memory of the game was a lot different because I only watched it and never played it, but having so many different sound cues all on top of each other that don't really work well together just became a bit overbearing. And on top of that, you've got to have the fastest reactions to putting on this mask, because if you don't do it in the fastest time imaginable, you've lost, it's game over. Night 3 in this game is like Night 4 in FNAF 1. It was that hard, and some of the gameplay was a bit confusing, like Toshiko just menacingly stands there for no reason. She can't enter through this way, she just does it to mess with you. So I was panicking because I didn't know what to do. I understand some people may prefer the more hectic approach, but for me it was a bit too much. So for that reason, I gotta put it at C. I just preferred the first one more. 2015, more teasers, this time a little scarier. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is released, but this time it was met with mixed reviews. This one lent into the more darker tone of the series, and this time around there's only 1 animatronic, Springtrap, along with 6 phantoms. So in this one, you just have to watch Springtrap and use an audio lure to get him away, but once he's in a staring contest with you, it's over. Unless you're about to hit 6 AM. You have your standard camera, but then you have a maintenance panel, which is for when things need to be reset. The audio, you used all your lures, camera, you used the cameras for too long, ventilation just goes down whenever it wants, or if you get jump scared by a phantom. And for me the worst one was the puppet, because I would always mistake it for Springtrap, so once you get jump scared by the puppet, it's there for 17 seconds. And in that time, Springtrap could have left the building and come back and be wherever he wants to. It was that long having to wait for this to go. So at that point you pretty much lost. But for me the phantoms were the scariest part of the game, along with the darker atmosphere. I really liked that. And there were also mini games at the end of each night which gave you more of the story. However, when it came to Springtrap, it felt really lackluster because his jump scare and the gameplay itself wasn't very good. Most of the time you'll be staring at Springtrap and that's pretty much it. You have no reason to check the other cameras unless you lost them. And even when he does move to another camera, use an audio lure to bring him back to the one you were looking at, and you just do the same thing over and over again. So it felt a little slow and wasn't the most entertaining, so for that I have to put it at D. It's not better than 2 or 1, so 4 months later, Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is released. This was set to be the last Five Nights at Freddy's, which is why it's also the last numbered one. We know that isn't the case anymore, but from the designs of the animatronics being terrifying, the change in setting and the story as well, it was set to be the final one and you can tell that's the case. Horror is the main focus of this game, and this is the only one I was dreading to play. Hearing it at the last second. The fact you play it as a child just in your dark bedroom is a great setting because you just feel vulnerable. This game is pretty much all about audio cues and that's pretty much it. You could play the game blind if you wanted to. You have to concentrate so much on how many footsteps they've taken, or if they're breathing, and in which case you need to close the door. Foxy is pretty easy this time around, you just need to keep him in the closet and just do that multiple times during the night and you're good. It was the right balance of stress and being scared. You even get a small minigame with Plush Trap where you need to stop him on the X, and if you do stop him on the X, then the next attempt that you get on the next night, you get 2 hours off. You get story minigames at the end of the night just like FNAF 3. And even in night 5 in this game, it's completely different. The first time I thought it would just be, okay, it's just a bit harder like all the other games. But this time you just deal with Fredbear. What was that? Which is a challenge, but it's not too bad, you just need to figure out how he works. Yes, oh my god, oh my god. Ooh, oh my god. I really enjoyed this one. Some people may not like the more patient way of doing things, but I think it was a different experience, and it was pretty fun and terrifying at the same time. So for that reason, FNAF 4 is an S for me. I had no issue with this game at all. 2016, the most negatively reviewed FNAF game is released. FNAF World. Taken off Steam, scrapped iOS port and Android port taken off the store. Teaser trailer was deleted. It was not looking good. With the teasers you could tell there was going to be a drastic change in the style, but when you go from FNAF 4 to FNAF World, it was never going to go down smoothly, even if this is just a spin-off. This was also around the time I started being disinterested in FNAF. That could be the reason why, because of FNAF World and the style change. The big complaint about this game were the visuals. In the first version of the game, when you're walking around, it's in an Atari-like style. Then when you get into battle, it's 3D, so it didn't really work together. So as an apology, Scott took it off Steam, allowed refunds to happen, and re-released the game on Game Jolt with updated visuals for free. But aside from that issue of visuals, it's a solid game. You get 48 different characters, a good set of moves, and multiple endings. I went into this thinking I wouldn't like it but still keeping an open mind, and surprisingly I really enjoyed it. Well, I enjoyed it. Not really enjoyed it, I enjoyed it. There's no restrictions that take away from any of the fun, so you can use the same move over and over, but on top of that you can buy bites, which help you in combat, and chips, which also help you in combat, like with a buff. You can have 8 total of these, and it was just fun to stack them all on top of each other. However, when it does that, it gets a bit much because it's constantly flashing every single time you do an attack. So it's kind of blinding at sometimes. You're allowed 2 parties at a time and you can switch between them in combat, which makes gameplay more enjoyable because you have more moves at your disposal. You can unlock new characters randomly and they can have better moves, which is worth investing in even if they start at level 1. Unfortunately, at the end of the game, it was a bit of a letdown because the final boss is just a one-hitter. Even let me land. It felt pointless to level up because he just one-shot you, so the only way I was able to get through it was just to revive every single time, and let all my add-ons do the work. Since it's a different kind of game, I'm just going to base it off enjoyment. I enjoyed it as much as FNAF 2. Almost 9 months later, and Sister Location is released, a continuation of the main series. This time more story driven, you can move around somewhat, you have different objectives on each night, and there was more voice acting than ever, and even end credits. I had a lot of fun with this one. Even though it is a bit different for a FNAF game, it still had that horror element to it. But I think that was the right approach because otherwise it would get a bit stale doing the same thing over and over again. The voice acting really made me pay attention to the story more this time around too.
Try not to wiggle though. You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria.
Each night felt refreshing, but once I got to night 4, Oh god, that was the worst night I had to do. You have to know pretty much all the timing that occurs during this night. That's why it's pretty much essential to have a stopwatch during this night, otherwise you can't beat it. I actually did it, oh my god. Other than that though, it was fairly easy and an enjoyable experience, so I'm gonna put sister location in an A. I enjoyed it more than FNAF 1, that's all I need to know. Just over a year later in 2017, Pizzeria Simulator is released. Despite the name sounding like a spin-off, it's actually a continuation of the main series. This time around you're looking after your own pizzeria. Unlike the promo leads you to believe, this is the first 2 minutes of the game only. This is what it actually looks like. It caught me off guard. I did enjoy this one. At the start of the night you simply have to buy things to increase your revenue of your pizzeria, but the bulk of the night is having to complete the loudest tasks in existence, while making sure no one is sneaking up to you in the vents. Pretty much each time you're just going to be snapping your neck left and right, just making sure they can't come in, because they can't come in if you're looking in their direction. It can be pretty tense because you have to regulate the temperature as well. Once you complete the night you can salvage an animatronic. Most of the time I didn't complete it.
Document results.
That was the last one. Yes, you did. This game was fun, but I think the pizzeria part didn't really add much to it, and it felt kinda unnecessary. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it at... I enjoyed it more than FNAF 3. I'll put it there once again. 2018, we have Ultimate Custom Night, another spin-off. This is pretty much just an arcade mode with every single animatronic and every single gameplay feature from the past games all in one, and it was also for free. This is also Scott's last big game that he worked on by himself. I didn't like the start of this game, like at all. This game operates on a score system based on how many animatronics you're playing with and the difficulty you set them to. The higher the score, the more you can unlock. At the end of the night you could also get given a power up for your next attempt. There's challenges in this game, but there's one in particular that I want to try out. It's every single animatronic set on the hardest difficulty. I want to see how long I could last in this one. Okay, let's see what gets me first. It lasted 2 seconds though, with everything on 20, no way someone beat that. I'm personally not an arcade gamer type of person, but I can appreciate that every single animatronic and gameplay feature was put into one for free. For that reason, I'm going to put it at a B. 2019, the first VR game for FNAF, Help Wanted, is released. This brought over FNAF 1 to 3 and pretty much FNAF 4, but not really at the same time. There's also mini games in this one which were a lot of fun to play. This was pretty fun and about as scary as the original games. So I can't see us from the window. Whoa! The mini game that is pretty much FNAF 4 but not really because it's not the original animatronics. That was the scariest one for me yet again, just because of the setting. The minigames I enjoyed quite a bit, although with the way my setup is, I couldn't experience it to the full extent without having a face cam. But for what I could experience, I had a lot of fun playing it. So I'm gonna put it at A? Yeah, I'm gonna put it at an A. I'm gonna give it an A. These next three are all spin-offs. November 2019 we'll get the first augmented reality game for FNAF, Special Delivery, which you can't even play anymore because it's not updated. So because I can't play it and it's just an AR game, which is pretty much just a budget version of VR, I'm gonna put it at F. December 2019 we'll get Freddy in Space 2, which is a sequel to a minigame in FNAF World. It's just a side-scroller shoot-em-up made for charity, and the only thing that piqued my interest about this game was the teaser image. It was a bit questionable, and even got taken down. It would go here, because I didn't really enjoy it, but because it's for charity, it can go here. Then we understandably skipped 2020, and now we're in 2021, and Security Breach Fury's Rage is released. This was made as an apology for the second delay of Security Breach.
The fan base, when they find out that I have to delay the game again,
They're gonna kill me!
This is a side-scroller beat-em-up, and it was pretty short but entertaining at the same time. Roxy's part was the hardest, but it was a nice challenge, and I enjoyed this more than Freddy in Space. So this one can go... Can it go? Yeah, it can get a D. We're now at the last big game of the series. December 2021, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is released, taking the series to a whole new level and allowing you to free roam in a massive establishment. Once again, developed by the same people that made Help Wanted, this game was delayed twice and it did launch with bugs and glitches, which of course impacted reviews, but the open world was the most praised thing about it. This is the most fun I've had with any FNAF game. I really like that they kept the core parts of the series still in this game. You're still able to use cameras to know where all the security guards are and the animatronics, and the goal of the game is still to reach 6 AM, except now it progresses after you complete objectives and progress the story. And the story isn't anything crazy, at least on the base level. You're just really stuck in a pizzaplex and you're staying overnight. But I'm sure with theories and looking at the lore, it's probably much deeper than I can imagine. When I got into the game and just progressed through it, I was always stunned by how stylistic and visually impressive everything was, along with the scale of the map and how it all connected together. Everything is just really bright and vibrant and it all worked well together. The only issue with it being bright and massive was the map had no labels at all. There's no objective marker either, so it's pretty easy to get lost, so it barely helped with knowing where to go. And the other downside to everything being bright was it wasn't scary. And even when it wasn't super bright, the character designs and how they operate aren't very scary either. Like Roxy is chasing you for most of the game, she's not very scary to run away from. You may get caught off guard though, because when you get caught by security, most of the time you hear them running towards you, but Chica should just teleport. And I don't know if that's a feature or if it's a glitch, so it kinda felt a bit out of place. Throughout the game you can find upgrades that help with stealth and the Freddy bot, which you're able to climb into to hide from the other animatronics, even though I rarely used him. But you're also able to get a Faz blaster, so you can just start shooting him. This made avoiding him a lot easier and a lot less scary, even less scary than it was already. By the end, I picked the Vanny ending, which is one of the 6 available endings you can get, and it's very clear that there's multiple endings because some objectives you just don't even need to do. This game was really fun, but it's not without its flaws. So enjoyment wise, it would be an S, but because it's flawed, I can give it an A. 2022, YouTube's presents Five Nights at Freddy's. This is just an AR merch game, which you can't play anymore either, so that's gonna go there as well. 2023 Security Breach Ruined DLC is released. It's Security Breach but scary. This one is a lot more linear and it fixes the issues that you have with Security Breach, like not being scary or just the way the characters operate. It gives you a bunch of puzzles that you can solve through augmented reality. Also, Roxy is the best animatronic out of any of them. This DLC for me took everything that I had a complaint about and just removed it and made it better. So for that reason I can give it an S. Funnily enough, while I was making this video, a new game came out, Freddy in Space 3, which was actually a small troll because on Game Jolt, it's called FNAF the Movie the Game, so that's a bit of a joke there. It's not going to change my score, because I still just barely enjoyed it more than Freddy in Space 2, so because it's just a slightly more enjoyable game, it would be here, well that's where Freddy in Space 2 would be, so I'll give it an E. So that is every single Five Nights at Freddy's game ranked. My favourite is Security Breach. Let me know if I cooked here or not. If not, let me know what you'll change. Remember, it's all just my opinion here. This was a lot of fun, there was something a bit different, but hopefully you enjoyed it anyway. My story.